The banishment in the ice forest. The cold wind screamed through the tall, frozen trees. Snowflakes danced in the air like silent ghosts. Princess Varela dragged her feet across the icy ground, her once beautiful royal boots now torn and soaked. Her silver cloak was ripped. Her skin, normally glowing with violet warmth, was pale from the cold. She had been cast out. Her stepmother, Queen Sereth, had given the order with no warning. One moment Varela was in the palace garden, reading her father's old journals. The next, guards had grabbed her and thrown her into a ship. They flew her deep into the northern ice forest, far from the capital city of Zoriel Prime. By order of Her Majesty, you are banished, one guard had said coldly. You do not belong to the throne. And then they left her. No food, no fire, no goodbye. Varela stumbled and fell. Her knees hit the frozen ground hard. She winced and pulled herself up, her hands shaking. She looked around. White snow everywhere. No buildings. No signs of life. Just cold silence. Tears stung her eyes. But she refused to cry. She was a royal. Royals don't cry in the face of death, but she was dying. Her body couldn't last long in this freezing place. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small pendant shaped like a sun with wings, her father's gift, the symbol of the true ruler of Zoriel. She closed her eyes, remembering his voice. Never forget who you are, Varela, even if the stars forget you. Suddenly, she heard a crunch in the snow behind her. She turned fast, slipping on ice. She grabbed a rock to steady herself. Her heart pounded. Was it a beast? A spy? One of the Queen's hunters sent to finish the job. But it was none of those. It was a man, tall, broad shoulders, wrapped in thick black gear that didn't look like anything from her planet. His face was mostly covered, but his eyes were strange, round, deep, and filled with curiosity. A human. She had only heard stories about humans, dangerous, wild, unpredictable. Most aliens feared them. But this one looked concerned. He raised his hand slowly. Hey, I'm not going to hurt you, he said in a calm, low voice. Varela didn't answer. She was too weak. Her knees gave out, and she collapsed. The man rushed forward and caught her before she hit the ground. Whoa, easy now, he muttered. He looked at her face, noticed her shaking lips and bluish skin. You're freezing, he said. He looked around, then picked her up like she weighed nothing. She tried to resist, but her body couldn't move. Her vision blurred. He carried her through the trees for what felt like hours. Finally, they reached a small metal shelter, half buried under snow. He kicked open the door and brought her inside. Warm lights flickered on. A fire pit glowed in the corner. He laid her down on a thick blanket. She couldn't speak, couldn't move. But she could hear him. Let's warm you up first. We can talk later. He gently removed her wet cloak and boots. Then he wrapped her in dry thermal sheets. He placed a heat pack on her chest. For the first time in hours, she felt warmth. As she slowly came back to life, she opened her eyes. The man was crouching beside her, boiling water in a metal pot. Name's Jake, he said, without looking at her. I'm a lost human on this frozen moon. Been stuck here 3 days. You're the first person, alien, I've seen. Varela opened her mouth. Her voice came out small and dry. Why? Help me? Jake turned to her and gave a short smile. Because you looked like you needed help. She blinked at him. On her planet, kindness was rare. No one helped unless they wanted something. He handed her a warm metal cup. Drink. Slowly. She sipped it. The heat ran through her like fire. I was left here, she said softly. I figured, Jake replied. You've got royal boots. But no gear. Doesn't add up. She didn't answer. She wasn't ready to tell him who she was. Not yet. Outside, the wind howled again. But inside the shelter, she was safe. For now, but neither of them knew above the trees. A small drone blinked red and flew silently toward the stars, sending a signal back to the Queen's palace. She knew the girl had survived, and she was not. Pleased. Asterisk, a fire in the snow. The wind outside howled like a beast searching for prey. Snow slammed against the shelter's metal walls, but inside, the fire crackled softly. Virella sat wrapped in thick thermal sheets, her fingers slowly regaining color. The heat was a gift, but the silence between her and the human was heavy. Jake worked quietly near the fire. He wasn't like anyone she had met before. No polished words, no cold stares, just calm hands and focused movements. He stirred something in a pot, the scent unfamiliar but warm. Virella watched him closely. She still didn't trust him. Where is this place? She asked in a hoarse voice. Jake looked over. Somewhere north of nowhere, he said with a grin. You're on the frozen side of Atheron. Not many come out here unless they're running from something. Or someone. Her eyes lowered. She didn't answer. Jake didn't push. Instead, he slid a bowl of hot stew toward her. She sniffed it, unsure. It's safe, he said. Tastes bad, but it won't kill you. She picked up the spoon with slow, careful hands. The moment the stew touched her lips, warmth spread through her chest. It wasn't royal food. It was something better, real, filling, made to survive. You got a name? Jake asked. Sitting across from her. She hesitated. Vire. It wasn't a full lie. It was part of her name. Safer that way, Jake nodded. Nice to meet you, Vire. I'm Jake. Wrecked my ship in a storm 3 days ago. Built this shelter with scraps. Thought I was gonna die out here, until I found you. Virella looked down at the steaming bowl. She didn't want to feel thankful. But she was. You shouldn't have helped me, she said quietly. Jake raised a brow. Why not? It could bring danger, he laughed softly. Too late. My life's been danger since I was born. I grew up on a death world, Earth. She blinked. Earth, the human homeworld. Known across the galaxy as dangerous, wild, full of unpredictable creatures. The last place any sane alien would visit. And you live there? She asked, surprised. Not anymore, he said, leaning back. I joined the exploration corps. Got tired of fighting. Thought I'd see the stars instead. Virella studied his face. He looked tired, yes, but also strong. She could sense a history of war behind his calm eyes. He wasn't just some lost traveler. He had seen things. She held her pendant in her hand. Jake noticed it again. Nice necklace, he said. Looks expensive. She quickly tucked it into her blanket. Just a gift from my father. He nodded, but said nothing else. Then, suddenly, a high-pitched beep broke the silence. Jake stood up fast. He rushed to a small screen on the wall. A red light blinked. What is it? Virella asked. Motion sensor, Jake said, frowning. Something's moving out there. Her heart froze. Could be animals, he said. But I don't think so. Wait here. He grabbed a long metal rod from the wall, some kind of weapon, and opened a small hatch near the roof. Snow blew in, but he scanned the distance with calm eyes. Virella crawled to the corner, holding her pendant tight. Jake came back down, locking the hatch behind him. His face was serious now. It's a drone, hovering high. Not ours. Her blood turned cold. Did it see us? I'm sure it did. Virella felt panic rise. They're tracking me. Jake finally asked, Who's they, Vire? She paused, then looked him straight in the eyes. I'm not just anyone. I'm Princess Virella, heir to House Zoriel. My stepmother cast me out to die so she could rule alone. Jake didn't flinch. Well, he said, rubbing his chin, that explains the fancy boots. You don't believe me? I believe you, he said, but now I really need to move this shelter. You mean leave? Jake nodded. That drone is gonna bring company. And soon, we need to get you somewhere safe. "There is no safe," she said bitterly. "There is," he said, walking toward a hidden panel in the floor. He opened it, revealing a secret tunnel lit with blue lights. "I didn't crash here without a backup plan." Varela stared at the tunnel. Warmth from the fire faded as cold fear returned. "If we go down there, will they follow?" "They might," Jake said. "But if we stay up here, they'll kill us." Varela stood, her legs still weak. She walked slowly toward him. "Then let's go." As they climbed down into the tunnel, the fire behind them flickered one last time before being crushed by the sound of a distant engine roaring through the snow-filled sky. The Queen's hunters had arrived, but the princess was no longer alone. Secrets in the shadows, the underground tunnel was narrow and dark, lit only by soft blue lights hidden in the walls. The air smelled like metal and old dust. Varela walked behind Jake, her steps slow but careful. Her body was still recovering, but her mind was sharp now. Every corner they turned made her heart beat faster. This was a path of no return. But she had already been thrown away once. There was nothing left to lose. Jake finally stopped at a steel door. He pressed his hand against a panel. The lock clicked, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was a small hidden room, no windows, no sound, just machines, weapons, and a strange glow from a power core. A holomap hovered in the center of the space, showing the snowy terrain above them and red blips blinking on its surface. "See that?" Jake pointed. "Those are the hunters. 3 ships. They're moving fast. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they reach the old shelter." Varela swallowed hard. "If they find it empty, they'll scan for heat trails." Jake nodded. "Exactly. So we don't leave any." He bent down and started pressing buttons on a square device. "Thermal scrambler," he explained. "Covers our tracks for a while." Varela looked around the room. She saw weapons, maps, ration packs, and then she saw a shelf with personal items, a torn patch with Earth's flag, a photo of Jake with a smiling alien girl. "You knew someone," she said softly. Jake didn't look up. "I did. What happened?" "She was killed," he said flatly. "By people who didn't want us together." Varela's eyes fell to the floor. "I'm sorry." He finally turned to face her. "So you understand why I don't care what species you are." "I wasn't always this soft," she said. "I used to think humans were dangerous monsters." Jake chuckled. "Some of us are, but not all." She stepped forward. "Why are you helping me, Jake?" "I'm not your kind. My world left me to die." Jake picked up a datapad. "Because I know what it feels like to be left behind." Silence settled between them. The only sound was the hum of the power core. Then Jake's eyes narrowed. "What's that around your neck?" Varela instinctively reached for her pendant. "It's nothing." He stepped closer, holding out a hand. "Let me see it." She hesitated, then slowly handed it to him. Jake examined the royal crest etched into the metal, the winged sun. He tapped it, and a hidden light blinked from within. "This isn't just jewelry," he said. "It's a data crystal." Varela gasped. "What?" Jake placed the pendant into a reader slot. A projection appeared in the air, a message left by her father. "If you are seeing this, my daughter, then you are in great danger. Trust no one inside the palace. Queen Sereth has betrayed me. She plans to erase our bloodline and claim power for herself. This crystal holds proof. Use it wisely." Varela stepped back, her mouth open in shock. Her heart raced. He knew. Jake stared at the message. "This changes everything." He tapped on the projection and pulled up the data secret messages. Orders signed by the Queen, coded transmissions, even footage of her poisoning the king. "This is enough to start a revolution," Jake said. "But who would believe me?" She asked. "I've been gone for days. The people think I ran away." Jake gave her a look. "Then we make them see the truth." He walked to a cabinet and pulled out a small transmitter. I can boost a signal through the tower in them hills. If we upload this, the whole planet can see it. But it's guarded, Varela said. Jake smirked. Good thing I'm good at causing distractions. A loud beep cut through the air. Jake turned to the holomap. They're here. The red dots now surrounded the shelter they left behind. One of them started moving toward the tunnel entrance. No time, Jake said. We go now. He tossed her a thick coat and a blaster. She caught it and stared at the weapon. I've never used one before, Jake smiled. Then stay close to me. I've used plenty. They climbed through another tunnel exit, emerging behind a frozen cliff. From there, they saw the Sky 3 black ships circling the area like vultures. Red lights blinked on their bellies. Jake pulled her down behind the rocks. Stick to the snow. Don't run. Don't speak. They crawled low, footsteps silent. In the thick snow. The cold bit their skin, but neither of them stopped. Varela held the pendant close. Not as a memory now, but as a weapon. Her father hadn't abandoned her. He had tried to protect her, even in death. Now, she had a mission. And beside her walked a human who had every reason to run, but stayed anyway. Together, they would show the galaxy that truth cannot be buried, not even in the deepest snow. Asterisk. The hunter and the shield. The snowstorm grew stronger as Jake and Varela moved across the frozen cliffs. The wind howled, sharp as knives, but they kept going. Their bodies were cold, but their minds were locked on a single goal: reach the tower. Before the Queen's hunters caught them, Varela's pendant was safe in her coat. The truth it held could destroy Queen Sareth, but only if they lived long enough to share it. They slid down a slope and took cover in the remains of an old stone ruin, ancient and half buried in ice. Varela leaned against a pillar, breathing hard. Her legs still hurt, and her fingers trembled. Jake knelt beside her, checking the blaster she carried. Safety's still on, he said. You planning to use it? I'm a princess, she replied, gasping. Not a soldier. Jake gave her a look. Today you're both. Suddenly, a sound echoed in the distance, a low growl, not human or machine. Jake's face hardened. Get down, he whispered. They crouched behind a broken wall. Through the snow, dark shapes appeared. 3 alien hunters in black armor, moving silently through the storm. They were tall, with glowing red eyes and long rifles strapped to their backs. Queen's personal guards. Varela whispered. The Bloodfangs, Jake nodded. I've fought worse. One of the hunters stopped, scanning the ground with a glowing scanner. It beeped twice, then pointed straight at the ruins. They knew. Jake pulled Varela close. We don't run, not yet. He grabbed a metal sphere from his belt and tapped it twice. Flashbang, he explained. Cover your eyes and ears. She nodded, scared but ready. The moment the first hunter stepped into the ruins, Jake threw. The sphere. Boom. A burst of white light and sound shook the ruins. The hunters screamed, blinded. Jake leapt from cover, firing at their feet, forcing them back. Now! He shouted. Virela followed him, heart pounding. She tripped once, but Jake pulled her back up. They ran deeper into the ruins, bullets zipping past. One of the hunters recovered quickly. He raised his weapon and fired. Jake turned just in time. Blocked the blast with a glowing energy shield strapped to his arm. The bolt bounced off, hitting a frozen wall, which exploded into chunks. Where did you get that? Varela yelled. Trade secret, he replied. He fired again, hitting one hunter in the leg. The alien fell, howling. The other 2 chased them. As Jake and Varela ducked into a narrow hallway, once part of a temple. Snow and dust fell from above. They reached a round chamber with only one way out. Trap. Jake cursed. They're coming. Varela looked around. The room had carvings on the walls, images of winged figures and glowing stars. This was sacred ground. Jake readied his shield again. I'll distract them, he said. You run. No. She shouted, I won't leave you. You have the truth. You can't be caught. That's more important than me. Her voice shook. You don't get to decide that. You're not my guard. Jake looked into her eyes. I'm your friend. She blinked. Her heart cracked a little. No one had said that word to her in years, but before she could speak, the hunters burst into the chamber. Jake stood between them and Varela, shield raised, ready to fight. Come on then. He shouted. One hunter fired, and Jake deflected. Another rushed with a blade, but Jake twisted and threw him across the room with a grunt. But the third hunter aimed at Virela. Her hands shook. She raised her blaster, but she was too slow. Bang. A blast rang out, but it wasn't hers. The hunter fell, stunned by a shot to the head. Varela turned in shock. Jake was still standing. But someone else was behind the hunters, a small figure in white armor, cloaked in the storm. A rebel? The figure lowered the weapon and spoke in a quiet voice, filtered through a mask. You shouldn't be out here alone, princess. Varela frowned. Who are you? The figure removed their mask. It was a girl, young, with blue skin and sharp yellow eyes. I'm from the resistance, she said. We've been watching the queen for years. When we saw your signal, we came. Jake looked surprised. How many of you are out here? Enough, she said. But not forever. We need to move. There are more hunters coming. Varela stepped forward. Then take us to the tower. We have something the galaxy needs to see. The girl nodded. Follow me. They left the ruined temple together, walking through snow that now glowed under the rising light of twin moons. The queen had sent her best to bury the truth, but Varela now had something stronger than a crown. She had all eyes, and a shield that would not fall. The throne's truth, the sky above the icy hills burned orange as dawn rose over Atheron, but Varela didn't stop to admire it. She, Jake, and the young resistance scout raced across the snow, moving between frozen rocks and cliffs. Their destination was now in sight, a tall, ancient communication tower, half buried in frost but still humming with power. Jake squinted at it through his scope. Looks intact. But those blinking lights at the base, motion sensors, they weren't there before, the scout muttered. They know we're coming. Varela said quietly. The scout, who called herself Lyra, nodded. They're trying to block us from sending the truth. Varela touched the pendant hidden under her coat. Her father's last message, the queen's treachery, the data that could change everything, it was all inside. But none of it mattered unless they got it into the airwaves. Jake checked his blaster. We go fast and loud, hit hard, make it inside. Lyra shook her head. No, that will alert the whole guard station nearby. They'll bring flyers. You won't make it out alive. Jake smiled. Didn't plan on leaving anyway. Varela stepped between them. Enough, we don't all have to die. Let me try something first. They looked at her, surprised. Varela removed her hood and cloak, revealing the royal crest sewn into her tunic. I'm going to walk through the front gate. Jake grabbed her arm. You'll get shot. Maybe, she said. But they've been told I'm dead. If they see me alive, they might freeze just long enough for you to sneak in and send the signal. Jake didn't like it. Neither did Lyra, but neither had a better idea. Jake sighed. You're the princess. She smiled faintly. Yes, and it's time I start acting like it. 5 minutes later, Varela stepped out of hiding and walked into the open snowfield, her chin high, her step strong. Her hair blew in the cold wind. A drone above turned toward her, scanning. Red lights blinked rapidly. Alarms blared. From behind a frozen wall, Jake and Lyra watched. Any second now. Jake whispered. The tower guards, dressed in dark royal armor, rushed out. Blasters raised. Identify yourself. One shouted. Virela didn't stop. I am Varela Zoriel, daughter of King Thaler. You dare raise weapons against your true ruler? The guards froze. They looked at one another in confusion. Whispers rippled through them. She's dead. Impossible. She. Looks like her. One of the older guards stepped forward. His voice shook. If you are the princess, prove it. Varela held up her pendant. It glowed with golden light, projecting her father's seal in the air. Doc gasped. A few guards lowered their weapons. The rest hesitated. Behind the chaos, Jake and Lyra moved. They dashed to the side entrance while eyes were locked on Varela. Jake disabled the lock with a spark tool, and they slipped inside. Varela stood tall. I was left to die by Queen Sereth, but I survived. And now I return not just with words, but with truth. Inside, Jake reached the control room. The comm unit was still online. Lyra uploaded the data crystal from the pendant into the mainframe. Sending now. She whispered. On screens across the capital, in homes and halls, the late king's voice began to play. If you are seeing this, my daughter, then you are in great danger. In the royal palace, Queen Sereth stood in her throne room as the hologram of her dead husband's voice echoed off the walls. Advisors watched in horror. Servants froze. Even her guards turned to stare. She screamed, smashing the screen. Find her. Kill the human. Shut it down. But it was too late. Every corner of the planet saw it. Messages, footage, orders she signed to poison the king. Proof she erased all other heirs. The truth couldn't be silenced now. Back at the tower, the guards outside dropped their weapons one by one. The older guard bowed his head. My princess, we are yours to command. Varela looked toward the tower's door. Jake stepped out, his face pale but proud. It worked, he said. She smiled at him, not as a stranger, not as a human, but as someone who had helped her rise. The sky above them shimmered with the Queen's ships approaching, but behind them, rebel ships began to rise too. A storm was coming. But for the first time, Varela wasn't afraid. She wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. She was the rightful heir, and she had just told the galaxy the truth. Asterisk. The human challenged. The skies above the tower turned black with the shadow of incoming royal warships. Their engines roared like thunder, shaking the frozen earth. From the ground, Varela watched them come, her hand clenched around her pendant. She had done what many said was impossible. She had returned from exile, exposed the Queen's lies, and reclaimed her name. But it wasn't over. Inside the tower, Jake tightened the straps on his armor and checked his blaster's charge. They won't go down without a fight, he muttered. Should try to kill you before the people crown you. Varela stood tall beside him. Then let her try. I won't run again. Outside, resistance ships began to land on the far side of the ridge. Lyra waved in signals from the ground team. We've got reinforcements. Not many, but enough to hold the tower. A guard approached, eyes wide with fear. Princess. Queen Sereth's personal ship is descending. She's coming herself. Jake glanced at Varela. That's a bad sign. It means she's desperate. Varela replied. She didn't expect the people to believe me so quickly. Lyra pointed to the capital towers blinking in the distance. The truth spread fast. Cities are rioting. Soldiers are switching sides. But if she kills you now, she can still spin the story. She's coming to end it with her own hands, Jake said grimly. And then they saw her, a sleek black ship, landed at the foot of the hill. The air around it burned with heat. From the ramp stepped Queen Sereth, tall, cruel, and dressed in obsidian armor laced with glowing red lines. Her eyes, cold and sharp, locked directly on Varela. She didn't bring an army, just 4 elite guards. It was a message. She believed she could do this alone. Sereth raised her voice, cold and clear. Varela, come down. Face me before your lies spread further. Jake stepped forward. You're not going alone. But Varela shook her head. If I fight her surrounded by others, she'll say I cheated, that I was afraid. Jake's jaw tightened. She's stronger, trained, armed. I don't need to be stronger, Varela said, looking into his eyes. I just need her to underestimate me. Then softly she added, but I want you close, just in case. Jake nodded. Once, always, they descended together. The snow crunched beneath their boots. At the center of the clearing, the queen waited. Varela stepped forward alone, the pendant visible around her neck. Sareth's eyes narrowed. You were supposed to die in the ice, she hissed. But you've always been too stubborn. And you've always been a coward, Varela replied. Hiding behind lies, behind power you stole. The queen smiled darkly. Let's end it. A duel. You win, I walk away. I win, you die, and the people forget you again. Jake moved, but Varela raised her hand. I accept. A circle formed in the snow as guards and rebels stood aside. The cold wind held its breath. Sareth activated twin plasma blades, humming with red energy. Varela held only a shock staff, a weapon used for defense, not death. The queen laughed. Still weak, I see. But Varela stood firm. The fight began. Sareth struck fast like lightning, aiming high and low. Varela dodged, blocked, and twisted. She didn't fight like a soldier. She moved like someone who had been hunted, cornered, and had survived. She ducked under a slash, spun, and hit the queen's arm with her staff. Sparks flew. Sareth growled. You're not your father. No. Varela shouted. I'm better. Sareth lunged, but Varela rolled, then struck upward. Her staff hit the queen's chest plate and sent her stumbling back. The crowd gasped. Jake stepped closer, watching every move. Sareth roared and raised her blade, then fired a hidden dart from her glove. It flew straight at Varela. But Jake was faster. He jumped in front of her, shield raised. The dart struck the shield and shattered. Varela's eyes widened. Jake, he smiled. Still not letting you die. Sareth screamed and charged, but she had made a mistake. Varela sidestepped, disarmed her with a crack of her staff, and kicked her to the snow. The queen fell. Silence followed. Varela pointed her staff at the fallen woman. This is for my father, for my people, and for every lie you told. The guards hesitated, then dropped their weapons and knelt. Lyra stepped forward. What are your orders, princess? Varela looked at the queen, breathing hard. Take her alive. Let the people judge her. The crowd erupted in cheers. The sound rolled through the hills, through the towers, through the stars. Jake walked to her side. You did it. Varela looked at him. No, we did. And above them, the skies cleared, not just of warships, but of fear. The throne was hers. Now, but she had already found something more powerful than a crown. She had found someone who never left her side. A new crown, a new path. The capital city of Zoriel Prime stood still. For the first time in years, no horns blew from the palace, no orders echoed through the towers. Instead, the giant city screens replayed the queen's crimes, Varela's duel. And the moment the crowd had shouted her name, not as a lost girl, but as the rightful heir. Inside the grand palace, the once cold marble halls now glowed with warm light. Servants no longer bowed in fear. Guards now followed Varela, not out of duty, but out of loyalty. She stood in the throne chamber, dressed in silver robes with her father's crest proudly displayed over her heart. The ancient crown of House Zoriel rested in a golden case beside her. Her time had come, but Varela's eyes were not on the throne. They were on Jake, who stood silently near a large window, staring out at the twin suns rising above the city. He looked out of place in this world of shining walls and polished glass. Still wearing worn armor and a patched-up coat, he looked more like a traveler passing through. Yet Varela knew better. He wasn't passing through. He was part of the story now. You've been quiet. she said, walking up beside him. Jake gave a small smile. Just watching. Never thought I'd see a royal palace from the inside. You helped make it happen. I just blocked a few darts. She laughed. You did more than that. He looked at her. So, what now? You wear the crown? Rule the world? She looked down at the glowing city. I don't want to rule like her. I want to heal what she broke. Jake nodded. That won't be easy. I know. That's why I want you with me. He blinked, surprised. What do you mean? Stay, she said. Not just as a friend or a guard. Stay by my side, as someone I trust. Jake looked away, unsure. I'm not from this world, Varela. I don't belong here. You belong more than most, she replied gently. You saw me when no one else did. You fought for me when I had nothing. He was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out her pendant. I kept this safe, he said. I figured it belongs with the crown. She took it with a soft smile. It belongs where it began, with someone who believed in me. Just then, the doors opened. Lyra entered, smiling proudly. They're ready. Varela nodded. She walked toward the center of the chamber where the crown awaited. Elders, soldiers, citizens, and off-world envoys filled the room. Watching, Varela stood tall, her voice strong and clear. I am not here today because of blood. I stand here because truth lived longer than lies, because courage rose from the cold, and because a human one stranger reminded me that hope is never truly lost. The crowd fell silent. She reached down and lifted the crown. It shimmered in the soft light, heavy with history, but instead of placing it on her own head, she turned. She walked to the elders and said, let the people crown their leader, not tradition. No more forced power. Let it be earned. The elder priest bowed. By the voice of the people, you are Queen Varela, first of her name, heir of the flame. He placed the crown upon her head. The room erupted in cheers, but Varela's eyes were still on Jake. Later, after the ceremony, she found him packing his gear quietly in the guest chamber. Leaving? She asked. He looked at her gently. I was never meant to stay in one place. You said you were tired of running, she reminded him. I did, he admitted. But this world is yours now. You don't need me. She walked up, placed her hand on his chest. I may not need you, Jake, but I want you here. Jake stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly, he unpacked his bag and placed it on the floor. All right, he said. I'll stay, for now. She smiled, pulling him into a quiet embrace. No, she whispered. Stay for everything. Weeks later, the city had changed. Statues of tyrants were removed. Voices once silenced now sang in the streets. Varela ruled not from a throne, but beside the people. And beside her always was a human who had changed her fate. Some called it a legend, others called it a miracle. But to her, it was something simpler, a new path, and a love that had grown in the coldest place into something warm enough to change a world.